Okay, I am gonna get started. Welcome to you all, and welcome to the final webinar in this LPGM 101 series. If you haven't been to the other series or haven't watched them, we did record them all. I do see some familiar names and faces in the participants, so welcome back. And you can view them all on LPGM's website and YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and just search for Lutheran Partners in Global Ministry or LPGM, you should be able to find us and view the other LPGM 101 webinars there.
We hope you'll learn something new today about LPGM. We are always striving for a good understanding of how we're helping students at the margins together in partnership.
These webinars are open to everyone. And thank you for sharing with a colleague, with a church group, with a friend who may be interested in the work of LPGM. And for those of you on our webinar today who are going to Guatemala in June, I would encourage you to share it as well with your families and friends so they can see what it is you're going to and what you're going to be doing.
Before we give a brief overview of LPGM and our mission and our vision, we're going to do a short introduction by our staff that are located here in Edina, Minnesota, which is a southwest suburb of Minneapolis. My name is Bethany Corpella. I am the development director here. I joined the team in November of 2020, so amidst the pandemic, but I'm excited to be able to say I'm going on my first LPGM sponsored trip to Guatemala in June. So I see a couple of other travelers are on this webinar as well. So welcome Anne and Mavis, and we're excited to be going with Tricia, who we will hear from in a bit. Now I will pass it on to Naomi.
I'm Naomi Sterick. I'm a charter board member of LPGM when it was created in 1995. And I joined the staff in September of 2009 as the managing director. Tricia has some wonderful things to share with you. I've been to Guatemala. It's really cool.
And I'm Mary Peterson. I am the program director and also the coordinator of travel. I help you get to Guatemala or India or Tanzania, wherever you may be called to visit. And I have been on staff with LPGM since 2012.
And I am Dan Ruth. I'm the executive director here at Lutheran Partners in Global Ministry. I am a Lutheran pastor in the ELCA, but most of my professional life has actually been in international development work, international ministry and mission, previously with Lutheran World Relief before coming to LPGM in 2017. Before we jump into the specifics about our program and partnership in Guatemala, I just wanted to do a very brief overview of Lutheran Partners in Global Ministry, who we are and as an organization and what we are about in the world. So I want to start out first by talking about the vision that Lutheran Partners has for the world. And our vision is really how we see the world, what we hope that the world will look like when our mission is complete, when our time together is done. And that may never fully come to pass until the return of Christ. But when God's activity is really at work in the world, this is how we hope the world will look. So our vision is that LPGM envisions a world where relationships transform boundaries and where all people have the resources and opportunities they need to thrive. So there's really two pieces to that. The second piece is where all people have the resources and opportunities they need to thrive. That's not just survive, not just get by, but to truly thrive. And the first part is that the relationship piece, that it is relationships that transform the boundaries that separate us from one another and from God. And that building deep into those relationships is really what can cause transformational change in the world. Our mission then is how we get there and how we as an organization uniquely try to get to this vision. And so LPGM provides access to quality education for people at the margins, especially women and girls. We work together with global partners to listen, respond, and bear witness to local needs and priorities. So again, two parts essentially to this, that we believe of all of the possible good that could be in the world, that we believe that uniquely our organization can make the biggest difference by providing access to quality education for people at the margins. And it's women and girls who, by and large around the world, have had the least access to that education. And then knowing that we as staff and as an organization and a community can't know the particulars of any particular context or country, we're always working with partners there who live there, who work there, who speak the local languages, and we listen, we respond to the voices that we hear and the stories we hear and the needs that we hear. And then we bear witness and share the stories to tell the good news of what is happening in those partnerships and the countries. We work currently in 4 countries. We have worked in many more than this over the history, 25 plus years of our existence, but currently have partnerships and programs in Guatemala, which we'll hear about today, the Central African Republic, Tanzania, and India. And now I'm going to turn this back to Bethany, who will introduce our special guest for today.
Thanks, Dan. So I am delighted and honored to welcome our guest speaker today, who is Tricia Hall. Tricia has seen her interests, passions, and calling combined in medicine, international health, and ministry. While she was in high school at Minnehaha Academy in Minneapolis, she sang under the choir director, Gordon Olson, who some of you may know. When she was a senior, Gordon and Betty Olson's son, Tim, was tragically killed while he was in Central African Republic working on a church. He was volunteering to help build it and was killed just crazily by bandits. And this is the tragedy upon which Lutheran Partners in Global Ministry began. Many years later, Tricia ran into Gordon at a church while she was visiting. And as they reconnected, it was clear that the Lord had brought them together for a purpose. They shared a passion for international service and ministry. It so happened that Tricia's cousin Tara and her husband Rob Cahill had co-founded an environmental learning center in the highlands of Guatemala known as CCFC, or Community Cloud Forest Conservation, in Alto Verapaz, Guatemala. It's thanks to this connection that Tricia brought this opportunity to the board of LPGM, and this new partnership was founded. So after practicing medicine here in the US for 10 years, Tricia is now active in serving the people of Guatemala who don't have access to healthcare. She's been leading our summer intergenerational experiential learning trips to Guatemala since 2014, and we're excited to have 2 groups going this June after a bit of a hiatus due to the pandemic. Tricia and her husband, Chris, have 3 children, and they live in Southwest Minneapolis. So thank you and welcome, Tricia.
Thanks so much, Bethany. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. It's so nice to be with you all today and to talk about a place that I have great love and passion for. So I hope that this can make you feel like you're maybe sitting in the cloud forest and getting a little sense of what's going on down there. So LPGM and CCFC, as Bethany mentioned, have had a partnership since 2013, 2014. And it started when our family decided to go visit my cousin Tara and her husband and their children, who had been living in Guatemala already for 10 years, working as teachers and working with the church and different schools. And we just loved it down there. And we thought, wow, this is a great opportunity. It works for our family. We had 3 young kids, including Sophia, who was only 1.5 at the time. She's now 11. And I came back and thought, wow, this is something that families can do. I had also traveled around the world to India and Africa and many other places, and never really felt like that was very feasible to regularly or easily take our family to those countries where there was a lot of travel and a big time change. But Guatemala seemed doable. At the same time, LPGM was thinking about their mission and their scope. And so, as Dan mentioned, the organization started with work in Central African Republic here and a lot of work in India. As you know, those are a long ways away from Minnesota. And LPGM at that time was saying, we'd like to engage younger families, we'd like to engage young adults. What are some ways to do this? And one of the objectives was to have a partnership closer to home, somewhere not to take anything away from visiting and partnering with Central African Republic and India, amazing organizations that are working in those countries, but to have an additional opportunity closer to home. And so, as you can see, Guatemala is right here. It's about a 3-hour plane trip usually to either Houston or Atlanta, and then another 3-hour plane trip down to Guatemala. So our family's experience and then bringing that possibility to LPGM is what kind of started the idea. So then in 2014, we did a pilot trip with 3 families and had a wonderful time. We did this lovely prayer quilt where we each got to write a prayer in a little square and then paint over it. We did this partnering with a school group at CCFC, and it's now hanging on the wall in the center down there. And after that went well, we said, okay, let's keep doing this. And we had trips in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, and then a big unfortunate hiatus for 20 and 21. But we're making up for lost time by having 2 groups this summer in June. And in addition to the summer trips, we've also had other trips that have gone throughout the year. Sometimes a centering prayer group went, and another young adult group from a church went. So other trips have gone in addition to the summer trips. But when we have these kind of trips, I just wanted to give you a feel for why we do it and what the objectives are. As you know, maybe that LPGM has a focus on transformational travel, not just being a tourist, but going somewhere, being open to change. And so we have called these trips to Guatemala experiential learning trips. And the objectives have been to experience and learn from the Quechua Maya culture, to work alongside CCFC. So not to come down thinking that we know everything and we're gonna build you a church and we're gonna do things for you and tell you what to do, but rather to walk alongside the people who are living there and working there. So CCFC has now been there as an official NGO for 12 years and started even before that. And the partnerships are deep and the trust is built there. And we want to just come and accompany and to walk alongside. And then the third objective is to share God's love with each other when we're there and with all the people that we meet so that we can be representatives of Christ in the world. So as you can see, we fly down to Guatemala here and we fly into Guatemala City. And then it's about a 5-hour, pretty bumpy, curvy bus ride up to Coban and the Central Highlands. So these are a mountainous region. It's a region that is highly populated with indigenous Quechua Maya people. And so it's a great experience for people, a very rich cultural immersion. I want to tell you a little bit about CCFC. So CCFC's mission is to alleviate poverty and to protect the forests in the highlands of Guatemala. If you have never been to Guatemala or you've never participated in a trip to CCFC, those 2 things, alleviating poverty and protecting the forest, might seem like they don't really overlap. What do those have to do with each other? But when you go to Guatemala and you are immersed in the cloud forest and you see unique habitat and things like this 88 butterfly, and then you see how the people dwell in that habitat and live from the land and live within the land, you can start to see how the water sources and the biodiversity of the land and all of those things work together. And so if you have a healthy habitat, you can have thriving communities and thriving forests. And conversely, if the forests are being cut down, it significantly impacts the communities. This is a wonderful young woman who participated in our program. So she came for the 25-day leadership training program. She learned all about herself and her place in the world and how she can both thrive as a person and help the earth to stay healthy. And she went home and taught her mom some of those things. She planted a parcel with trees and plants and lots of great biodiversity. And then we went to visit her and see how things were doing. And her mom was very happy to show us her harvest of beautiful peppers here. So I put these words alone on a slide without any background or pictures because I feel like they are so important. So important to what LPGM does and so important to what CCFC does and why I think that it's a natural and a really beneficial partnership between these two organizations. The way that we work is through empowering women through education. And just to give you a little story, here is the first time that we visited when my daughter was just 1. She's in the front there. She's the little blondie and everybody had to have their hands all over her. And then in the back, you'll see this is Rosalia. And, I took this picture. I didn't know any of these girls. They were all just at the local school that we were visiting, and they were about 4th or 5th graders. But years later, Rosalia came to the program and she learned all the same things about in the leadership training program. She actually brought fruit starts home and was able to harvest plums in her home. She lives in an area that is really good for plum trees. And she went through the program for several years, stayed in school, and just this past year graduated from high school. So what a lovely thing to witness the path and the journey of Rosalia from a 4th or 5th grader here, just hanging around when we were visiting, all the way to graduating from high school. And as you might know, if you've listened to other LPGM webinars, or you might just be aware of this, we know that each year a girl stays in school, she increases the earning potential and the health and well-being of her family, and then also of her community. So in Guatemala, and you'll hear this a little bit more later, but I'll just mention in this region of Guatemala, in the schools that we work in, unfortunately, after 6th grade, there's about a 75% dropout rate for girls, and that's each year. And so Rosalia, if she had kind of continued on that path, 75% chance she would have dropped out after 6th grade. And she did not, and she continued all the way through high school. So we're really, really happy for her and all of the girls who stay in school and can envision their dreams. So how do we do this? Education is key, keeping girls in school. Also reforestation, agroecology, and sustainable development. So we'll talk a little bit about each of these. But I'm hoping to start with this video just to put you guys in the CCFC area to hear from the girls themselves and to hear a little bit from the beginning about what this is all about. Maybe Dan, if the video is not working and you can't hear, feel free to go ahead and stop me, but otherwise I'll just go ahead and play it.
Me llamo Vilma Leticia Tocmás. Vengo de una aldea de San Pablo Xucaneb, de parte de Coan. Cuando entré en primero básico, mi papá no quería que yo estudiara. Porque a veces los hombres piensan que nosotras las mujeres no podemos estudiar, solo los hombres. Siempre piensan que si las mujeres salen de la casa, seguro van a llegar con hijos. A veces sufría, de verdad sufría y lloraba porque no tenía ese apoyo que yo necesitaba.
Lain ningkawa lain Maria Lucrecia Capnarcoy Aranincha San Pablo Xucaneb Dig ish konke nakangista kuistuke o Arana halali kwan hek bekyat Arana kesti akakulub la ol ish Ber la okwan akakulub la chi okeng.
One of the good things about Kikchi culture is they're very protective of their daughters. But that also means they often keep the daughters at home once they become 12 years old.
The education of women and the empowerment of women is really crucial to the development of a society. Where women are educated and empowered to make responsible decisions, we really believe that that will translate into a social benefit, an economic benefit, and an environmental benefit. The cloud forests of the Central Highlands, right now as we speak, are under a tremendous threat. We believe that ecological improvements to agriculture are the last hope for this cloud forest. The intervention is empowering and educating young women. Young women face a 75% dropout rate every year. So there's 100 girls coming out of 6th grade. The next year, there's 25. And the next year, there's 6. So the WALK program is a 25-day learning experience for these young women. And this year, we had 125 young women from 43 villages. This 25 days, there are 3 main courses. There's Life Project, and there's Conservation Biology, and there's Agroforestry.
Life Project is one of the 3 major components of our program. Why? Because the young women often have to get married very young and start their family, and she may have 12 to 15 pregnancies in her life with 8 to 12 living children. That index is what we're trying to work against.
Okay. So that gives you a little bit of a feel for how the WALK program, which is another acronym, Women in Agroecology Leadership for Conservation. It's a 25-day training program, and that's what's going on here with Lilia teaching some health topics. And so that gives you a little feel for how that works and how it impacts the lives of these young women and their communities. As I mentioned, there are other ways that we work with education, reforestation. Every time you cut a tree down, it's recommended that you plant 10. And so we try to practice that at CCFC. We can practice it here in the United States as well. And all the groups that come, the school groups and the 25-day leadership training program, practice reforestation. And here we have a group from the US with my daughter Sophia, with her friend that she just met, Luvia. They partnered up and they're working on planting trees together. Agroecology is a big word that we maybe don't use very often here in the States, but what we are hoping is that for the benefit of the earth, for the benefit of the individual and for the benefit of the community, that there is a very diverse habitat for growing and for eating. So agroecology is looking at farming within the natural ecological framework of the cloud forest. And so having some cloud forest trees, and then having some plantings underneath them, and having some fruit trees, and having some vegetables there. And this is all mutually beneficial for the earth, and it's also beneficial because you get such a biodiversity of nutrition. One of the things that grows really well in the cloud forest is naranjilla. Naranja, as you might know, is the Spanish word for orange. And so naranjilla means little orange, because as you can tell, it looks like a little orange. It's actually not even in the citrus family. It's in the tomato family. You can see that it's got a lot of seeds there. But if we harvest it and make it into jam or juice, it is extremely high in vitamin C and vitamin A. So very helpful. And this grows really well in the cloud forest. I have a particular interest in health and in working in community health initiatives. And so I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about what we're doing in that regard. We have done a survey and found that the causes of death in this region are the same as in the whole country, but even more severe. So these people in the really rural, remote villages are suffering and dying at a higher rate than in other parts of Guatemala. They're dying of things like pneumonia and diarrhea, and also many other things, but those are the two biggest killers. So we are looking, kind of going backwards and looking at the root causes. So looking at hygiene, nutrition, how to have healthy immune systems to prevent infections. And then what are the other things that are impacting those two diseases? You see this family here on the right. This is a family that made lunch for us as we were visiting their village. And a few of us walked in to greet the women, and we could barely stay in that tented area for more than 1 minute because it was so smoky. So the way that traditional Quechua Maya women cook is over an open fire, and they cook almost all day. They're making tortillas for their family, they're making soups and beans, and they are exposed to that smoke all day long. And we know that this doubles the risk of pneumonia for children, and it nearly doubles the risk of COPD for adults. And so huge impact on health to have these open fires. One of the interventions we've done is to encourage women in our program and women in the communities to save up their money and try to purchase an improved stove that has a chimney with ventilation for the smoke. So we provide an incentive. We provide a 25%, we pay 25% if they save up to 75%, and we make sure that we arrange to have it delivered and installed. This is a quick video that shows the day that this stove was installed in a home close to the center. They were actually making a lot of tortillas for our program, and they started making them on the open fire on the left, and then their stove was installed that day, and then we watched them make them on the right. And you can see the enormous difference in the smoke that they are breathing in. So there wasn't a wall in between here. It's just that there was so much smoke on the left with the open fire and virtually no smoke on the right. So this seems like a simple thing that we can do, but the impact is huge. So when we did our survey, we found that 99% of the homes in the 24 villages that we surveyed did not have a chimney to get rid of the smoke from their cook stoves. So this is a big problem, and that's one way we're working on it. Let's see. You heard in the video that one of the components of the CCFC curriculum is Proyecto de Vida, so that's life project. And how important that is for the young women who come through the program is hard to summarize, but I'll just tell you about my dear friend Lilia. I met Lilia back in 2017 when she was a pre-nursing student. So in high school, they kind of declare what they think their focus is going to be. And so she thought she wanted to be a nurse, and she started working with us on our survey and in our health initiative program. And I have been working with her now since 2017, so 5 years. Last year, no, 2 years ago, we were able to go and see her do a presentation in her nursing school, talking about a child with malnutrition and talking about what kind of impact she can have by not only treating the malnutrition, but also looking at the root causes. So looking at not just, oh, let's refeed the baby and make sure the baby gets up to good weight, but wait a minute, why is the baby malnourished? What kind of plants do you have growing around your home? And so she just went far and beyond a normal school project, and she talked to the family, found out that they didn't really have much biodiversity or nutritional plants, went back to our center, got some starts, brought them back out to this home so that this family could have that benefit. And so these are the things she's learned from staying in school. And these are the things she's learned from being in the WALK program and being at CCFC. And so she has now graduated from nursing school. And it brings tears to my eyes because I've been connecting with her and talking with her on WhatsApp. And recently I was looking into some statistics from the World Health Organization and looking at the best ways that we can intervene in pregnancies and make sure that pregnancies and births are healthy. And I just connected with Lily, and she said, oh, I'm out visiting 2 high-risk pregnancies today. And she said, I'm seeing one mom who is 42 years old, and she's on her 12th pregnancy, 12th. And her daughter in the same home is 17, and she's on her 1st pregnancy. And so 2 very high-risk pregnancies for different reasons. And I said, oh, wow, Lilia, that's so great. And she wrote, without me even prompting her, here are the things I'm talking with them about today. And she listed all the things that are important during the pregnancy, making sure you have enough antenatal checks and the vaccinations and the nutrition and then clean delivery. And she just said all the things I had just been reading on the World Health Organization as these are the points of intervention. So to see Lilia really thrive like this and also go back to her community. An interesting thing is that when I would ask Lilia early on in her nursing career and throughout her nursing school, what do you think you want to do when you finish? A lot of young women would want to go work in a hospital. It's probably the best paying job. She always said she wanted to go back to her community, which is about 3 hours from the CCFC center. And so it's a pretty remote place. And she said, I just want to go back home and have a good impact on the people in my community. And that's exactly what she's doing now. And we're so thrilled. She sent me this picture recently and said, this is mi lucha. Part of my struggle is trying to get to the homes to visit the women through these muddy paths. So proud of Lilia and so grateful to see what an amazing job she's doing. We also have a lot of fun when we go to CCFC. We encourage the young women to try new things like ropes courses, which they never have seen or tried before. And we do those things along with them. So there's Sophia going across a log bridge across that same river. And we enjoy working with the young women and with the school kids and partnering in both some heavy conversations and hard things about their lives and also just enjoying each other's company. So this is the end of that video that I started before, and we'll just give you kind of a wrap-up taste of the program.
Maria is number 6 of 6 girls. All 6 have come through our program.
Ngayon, nak magkatim ano sa lingkyuam at naktinsyik sa lak at arang tingkanan sa enfermera ide taklak panip na at lain teril na magkakit talit akom terang tinrang lain at ani nagwaskut al sa kakali ala kwan sa parushkana 5 pesos entre más lo molemos más subimos la leche. Llevo 5 años de estar participando en este programa. Con el tiempo me entré como líder. Empecé a encabezar un grupo de señoritas.
Los obstáculos que pasa aquí en la vida de las mujeres es uno no siente libre. Ahorita, gracias a Dios, me siento libre. Soy una mujer fuerte, soy una mujer con inteligencia, capaz de hacer diferentes cosas. Como ahora tengo planes de estudiar y voy a estudiar enfermería. Y ese es mi anhelo, es estudiar enfermería, como hace mi mamá es comadrona, ayuda a las mujeres.
Keeps restarting. So I just love how the mission of LPGM and the mission of CCFC really come together. And so again, the mission of CCFC is alleviating poverty and protecting forests in the highlands of Guatemala. And the way that we do this with LPGM is by empowering women so that all communities may have the resources they need to thrive. And this picture was just taken about a month ago. This is Laura and Jessica, they're sisters. And I was with them in January, and we were talking a lot about pneumonia and about the stoves. And so they decided they wanted to save up their money and get one for their family. And so they had it delivered, and I just love the beautiful smiles here. And so now you can see that Laura and Jessica and their mother, their grandmother, and their little sister all can be breathing fresh air, having decreased risk of pneumonia, and still be enjoying, as you see there, their tortillas and their caldo soup. And another just really wonderful point is that these women live in the same village as Lilia, so my nursing colleague, Lilia. And so Jessica first came to the program because her parents said, we want her to go to that program because we want her to be like Lilia. So you can see the positive impact and how the word spreads. And if young women are thriving and staying in school and improving their lives and the lives of their community, how that just spreads and becomes a wonderful multiplier effect. So I want to thank you, you all, for your support of LPGM, your interest in LPGM, your support of CCFC, because it makes an enormous difference in the lives of these young girls, in the lives of their families and their future. And we are so grateful to partner with you and work on that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you so much, Trisha. It is so great to have you join us. And those videos really do a great job of sharing just, you know, who these women are and what our partnership with CCFC is all about. One of the things I was thinking about while you were talking and during the presentation is just how interconnected our world is. And LPGM talks about that a lot in terms of relationships, person to person, human to human relationships. But I think that that's also true with sort of the issues that our world faces. Rob, in the video, I think it was Rob, talked about how the goal of CCFC is to help manage the forest, the cloud forest, and take care of the natural resources that exist in the cloud forest. And the way that he said it, though, that their particular approach to doing that was to empower young women. And I thought that was really interesting because it's almost the flip side of what LPGM's approach and the way that we do it. You know, our goal is to empower young women, and the particular way in Guatemala that we're doing it is by supporting CCFC. And those are two interconnected ways of, you know, really showing that we are taking care of God's creation and including human beings in that. And it also reminded me that Rob actually gave me a book a few years ago called Drawdown. And it's a comprehensive plan to address climate change and the ways that scientifically proven ways to address climate change. And what's really interesting is there's a whole bunch of issues and ways of going about addressing climate change. And they've rated sort of the impact to carbon in the atmosphere by 2050. And of all of the ways listed in here, and they range, across the board from how to take care of refrigerants when things like air conditioners have run their life cycle so that the refrigerants don't get released into the atmosphere. But number 6 on that list is educating women and girls. That educating women and girls globally is also one of the most effective ways to have an impact on climate change in the future. So I love this partnership that we have with CCFC that is talking about, reforesting the cloud forest and protecting the cloud forest, to educating young women and girls, to having healthier environments for cooking in their families. All of these nutrition, health, livelihoods are all really interconnected. I do see a question here. Do men generally support or not support the empowerment of women and girls? I'll answer this broadly speaking, globally speaking, as I have seen it. And then Tricia, if you have specific examples or ideas from Guatemala, I'll let you jump in. I will say, globally speaking, men do support these things, generally speaking. Of course, there are men who don't want their wives or daughters to get as high of an education. But generally speaking, I think most fathers and husbands and men do support the education of girls. A lot of times the lack of access to quality education has more to just do with economic reality that families face. That if school costs something, and even if there's not a direct tuition that they have to pay, school almost always does cost something, either in terms of having to buy books or notebooks, or even the loss of somebody to work around the home or a farm. There is a cost to sending a child to school. In most countries around the world, in many places around the world, if there is that cost, most families are going to choose to send a boy to school for longer than they would to send their daughter. And so if we can remove any of those barriers or costs, whatever they may be, that just helps families face that economic reality with a little bit more resilience, and be able to support that. Tricia, do you have any sense, particularly around this area in Guatemala?
Yeah, I think it varies, and we've seen it go both ways, where some of the fathers are very supportive from the start and some are quite hesitant. And for instance, Vilma from the video, she was saying, my dad didn't really want me to study. And but then she said, I actually brought some malanga back, some taro root, and showed him how to grow it. And he was learning from me. And, I think as the fathers who maybe were more hesitant see the benefits and see their young women, their daughters and other people in the community thriving, that's kind of a wonderful transformation to see the support building. So traditionally, it's a very patriarchal society and culture. And so there is some resistance at first, and that's changing. So that's good to see.
I am going to change the security settings here now. So if anyone would like to turn on your video or unmute yourself to either bring a greeting or say hello or ask a question, feel free to do that. And otherwise we will just continue on for a moment. And I do want to just say that your support is needed for this partnership to continue. Both if you are planning to travel, that's one amazing way of engaging with this and building relationships, or if you are interested in that in the future, but also your financial support is necessary for this as well. One of the things that we provide are scholarships for these walk participants. So CCFC is one of the assignments for young women who go through the walk program is that they have to go back to their village and create their own agroforestry parcel. And so they go back and really it's a way of demonstrating what they have learned to their families and their communities. CCFC follows up with them and then gives out scholarships that allow the young women to stay in school for another year. And these young women can keep coming back year after year after year to the walk program. And as Tricia showed, some of these women like Lilia are now in university or vocational programs studying and doing amazing things that they'll bring back to their own families. It's really a powerful way to empower young women and empower their communities.
Might I just add too, the cost for one of these young women to attend the 25-day intensive walk program and then the scholarship attached to that to get her through another year of school is $275. So $275 there goes a long way. And you can see the impact it's making on families like the ones you shared about, Tricia. So thanks for that. So if any of you are feeling compelled and interested in supporting this program in particular, you can make a gift on our website, which is lpgm.org. You would just signify that you would want your gift to go to the walk program of CCFC. So thanks in advance if you are interested.
Any other questions or comments from anyone? Otherwise, Bethany, I'll just turn it right back to you.
Yeah, I'll say again, does anyone want to just share a greeting or a comment or a question?
I will just one thing. Tricia and I
We'll
will
let Mary go first and then Vern. Thank you.
Tricia and I were at CCFC in 2019 fall and participated in the walk program. And we met a young woman named Herlinda. And Herlinda was 26 or 27 years old. She was one of those girls that didn't get to continue school. It just wasn't possible, but she never gave up and learned about the walk program and came, and actually she ended up staying for both sessions, if I remember right, Tricia. That's how she was so engaged and so excited and just looking to get that education that she didn't have, and the walk program was giving her that opportunity.
Thanks, Mary. Vern, you had a question or comment?
Just a comment to Tricia. Be proud of what you've accomplished. I remember when you first brought this to the board years back and what you and Rob and Tara have been able to accomplish. It was just fun to see this, and I intend to show this to some others.
Thank you. Thank you. We are grateful, and it's really wonderful to work with organizations that have such aligning missions and understandings of the best way to go about things. I think the accompaniment model, really investing in communities, it just feels really rewarding to work within communities like that. So grateful for the partnership.
Tricia, could you let us know how was WALK affected during the pandemic? And could you share, like, how did they continue to provide this empowering transformational support for these young women amidst pandemic?
Right. Yeah. Just like all of us here, in-person school was not possible. So we couldn't have the regular walk programs with 150 girls sleeping together under one big roof. And so what they did instead was tried to do sort of a virtual walk, which is difficult when most families do have a cell phone, but cell phone service and any kind of Wi-Fi is really sketchy. But they really did a great job of putting together little snippet lessons. So they would have, for instance, Lilia did the health lessons, and some of the other teachers did other lessons on nutrition and agroecology and deforestation. So they'd have a little lesson, an audio lesson, and then they'd have an assignment for the girls, a worksheet or something, that a project that they could do at home, maybe 3 little things that they could do. And so they would send this out. It'd be maybe a 4-minute audio thing, and they'd take their cell phone where they knew there was good cell service, maybe right next to the tienda, and they download it, get that, and then they would do the activity and then try to send it back. So not ideal. Of course, we all learn better experientially and when we're in person, but still able to get that message out. And a new thing that came up, as we all know, there are silver linings to this pandemic, and we find new ways to do things like Zoom. And their new idea was to make radio spots as well. So then not just the walk students, the 150 students who registered would get the information, but anyone who's listening to the radio would get the information. And so they have a full lineup of radio spots on various different topics that they can broadcast. So that will hopefully be something that continues in the future as a benefit.
Thanks, Tricia. Any other last questions or comments? All right. Well, if you think of something down the road, please reach out to us. You met all 4 of our staff today, and so know that we are here to answer questions. We are real people, and we love talking with you. So please reach out to us. And Dan will flash contact information on the screen so you know how to reach us. I just do want to take a minute to encourage you as we wrap up this 4th and final webinar in this first ever LPGM 101 series. Who do you know that might appreciate learning about these programs? Perhaps you're part of a civic group, a Rotary Club, maybe you have a Bible study or a book club, an adult Sunday school or adult forum at your church. Please feel free to share these videos. And if you are, let us know so that we can get you some follow-up information or some brochures to share along the way. But also these are open and available to anybody from our website or from our YouTube channel again. So thank you for considering sharing these with a friend. And I'll turn it over to Dan.
Thank you. You all are part of this global ministry. We need you to do what we do. God doesn't need your good works, but your neighbors do. So thank you for your interest, your financial support, and your prayers, as together we strive to increase these opportunities for people on the margins by providing access to a quality education. We hope we have an opportunity to meet with you again, either online or in person. Blessings to you on the rest of your week.
Thank you, Tricia.
Thanks.
It was great. Thanks a lot. And we'll be getting a link out to everybody of the recording soon. Thanks.